Welcome back to our channel. You're in the right place if you're interested in studying about crimes and their investigations. This video is about the Green River Killer, one of the most notorious and despicable criminals in history. Let's study the background of this criminal and how the puzzle of the Green River Killer was solved. Gary Leon Ridgway is the real name of the American serial killer and sex offender known as the Green River Killer, responsible and convicted for 49 separate murders. These 49 confirmed murder cases make him the second most prolific serial killer in the history of the United States. The nickname Green River Killer, or GRK as many media publications refer, was given when the first 5 bodies of the victims were found by the Green River in Washington, United States. Gary Ridgway is a serial killer who killed multiple teenage girls and women in their 20s and 30s by strangling and later dumping them in the forested and overgrown areas during the 1980s and 1990s. And to make his criminal profile viler, he was also recognized as a necrophiliac who returned to his victims' bodies to have sexual intercourse with them. He was apprehended and sentenced to life imprisonment in 2001. That's Green River Killer's crime story in a summary. Now let's get to know his story in more detail. Gary Ridgway was born on February 18, 1949 in Salt Lake City, Utah. His home life is described by relatives and neighbors as troubled to some extent, with a domineering mother and his parents having violent arguments more than once or twice. Also, his father was said to be a bus driver who openly showed disdain towards sex workers. He later mentioned to defense psychologists that he had fantasized about killing his mother in his adolescence and described he had conflicting feelings of anger and sexual attraction towards her. He was dyslexic and said to have an IQ of low 80s. Ridgway graduated from Tyee High School in 1969 after getting held back a year. He stabbed a 6-year-old boy when he was 16 after leading the boy into the woods. The boy had been stabbed through his ribs into his liver but fortunately survived the attack. Gary Ridgway had 3 wives and several girlfriends. He married his first wife, Claudia Craig, after graduating. Then he joined the US Navy and served in Vietnam. There he frequented sex workers and contracted gonorrhea. Even after contracting the STI, he proceeded with his sexual activities without protection, ultimately leading to the end of the marriage within a year. With his second wife, Marcia Winslow, he had a son in 1975. During that time, he became religious. He proselytized door to door and read the Bible out loud at his workplace and home. He also instructed his wife to follow the teachings of their pastor. However, that didn't stop him from his sexual activities. He continued to seek the services of sex workers and he engaged in sexual activities in public and unfitting places with his wife. That marriage was also ended because of infidelities on both sides. His third marriage was with Judith Mawson in 1988. All of his partners have claimed that he was insatiable when it comes to sex, that he demanded more sex more than once a day, and he wanted to have sex in public areas. Ridgway claimed that he had a sort of obsession with sex workers. Like his father, he also openly complained about sex workers, but he frequented their services too. Ridgway's murders began in the early 1980s. He is suspected to have killed around 71 teenage girls and women in Seattle and Tacoma during the 1980s and 1990s. The majority of these murders took place from 1982 to 1984. His victims were either sex workers or runaways. His method of killing was strangling them with his bare hands and later using ligatures like rope, belts, fishing lines, t-shirts or extension cords. He would lure them to trust him, sometimes showing a photo of his son. Then he would have intercourse with them from behind and strangle them. He performed those murders at his house, his truck or in secluded areas. He would dump the bodies in the Green River or surrounding wooded areas and return to have sexual intercourse with them. He later stated that performing necrophilia only reduced the need to find more living victims. He put cigarettes, gum, and other materials that belonged to others in dump sites to divert attention from him. Few of the bodies were even carried across the state and dumped around Oregon. When more bodies were found near the Green River area, the King County Sheriff's Office formed a task force to investigate the murders. It was known as the Green River Task Force and consisted of members like Dave Reichert and Robert Keppel, who worked in investigations of Ted Bundy as well. Bundy himself was interviewed and he purposed some ideas about the killer's motivations and behavior. Ridgway was arrested on charges related to prostitution in 1982 and again in 2001. He was suspected to be the GRK in 1983. Hair and saliva samples were taken from Ridgway in 1987 and subjected to DNA profiling. Enough evidence was obtained from this to obtain an arrest warrant. Ridgway was arrested at work on November 30, 2001 as a suspect in murdering 4 women in the Green River area 20 years ago. DNA evidence was linked with semen left in the victims' bodies. He was sentenced to death penalty after his crimes were revealed through numerous forensic tests and other investigations. However, a plea bargain was arranged by his lawyers to spare him from it under the agreement to disclose the locations of his other victims. He now serves a lifetime imprisonment in solitary confinement at Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla without parole. That's all about the Green River Killer. For more content like this, subscribe to our channel and click on the notification button to stay updated.